She shelters a wounded outlaw in winter. She has no idea he is an alpha shifter. Winter had claimed the northern forests of Valor. Snow lay thick over the trees, muffling the wind into a soft, endless whisper. The world was white and quiet, broken only by the occasional crack of ice under a branch or the distant howl of a lone wolf. Villages huddled against the cold, and travelers avoided the woods, fearful of getting lost or swallowed by the storm. At the edge of this frozen wilderness stood a small stone cottage. Smoke curled lazily from its chimney, a thin thread against the gray sky. The cottage belonged to Alara, a young woman who lived alone. She was known in nearby villages as a healer, a woman who could mend broken bones, cure fevers, and soothe pain. Some whispered that she had a gift beyond ordinary skill, that her touch could draw sickness out of the body like water from a cup. Others said she was half-witch, though she carried no mark of magic, no wand, and no allegiance to any king or queen. Ilara herself cared little for rumors. She had fled the court years ago, leaving behind her father, a powerful mage, and a life filled with rules and expectation. Here, in the forest, she had peace, or so she thought. It was on the longest night of winter when the storm struck with unusual fury. The wind battered the trees and the snow fell like gray ash, blanketing the forest in silence. Ilara moved about her cottage, feeding the fire, checking her stores. That's when she heard it, a soft, uneven thud against her door. At first, she thought it was the wind, or a branch knocked loose by the storm. But then came another sound, a groan, low and pained. Her heart quickened. She grabbed a thick cloak, her staff, and stepped outside. The snow was deep, cold, biting through her boots. She followed the sound toward the door. There he was, a man, lying half buried in snow, his dark hair plastered to his forehead, his face pale and streaked with blood. His cloak was torn, revealing a jagged wound across his side. He stirred weakly, opening one golden eye. He tried to speak, but only a rasp escaped him. Alara knelt beside him, ignoring the fear that gnawed at her stomach. "You're hurt," she said simply.
"Come inside, quickly! I can't!"
He coughed, blood flecking his lips.
"It's, dangerous."
"Outside is more dangerous," she said firmly, lifting him with all the strength her small frame could manage. His body was heavier than it should have been, and she could feel the tension in his muscles, the restless energy that seemed almost alive. Inside, she laid him on a cot near the fire. She stripped away his wet, torn clothes with care, cleaning the wound and binding it with strips of cloth soaked in herbs. The room smelled of pine and burning wood, of salt, and the tang of healing ointments. He was silent for a long time, watching her as she worked. There was something in his gaze that unsettled her. It was sharp, fierce, and alert, like an animal sizing up a stranger. "My name is Rowan," he said finally, his voice low and guarded. "Don't tell anyone I'm here."
"I won't."
She did not ask why he was bleeding, why soldiers or hunters might be looking for him, or why he seemed almost wild. Not yet. Days passed. Snow fell in heavy drifts, trapping the cottage in a white world. Alara tended to him, feeding him warm broth, cleaning his wound, keeping him wrapped against the cold. Each day she noticed more about him, the way his hands moved, precise and careful, the tension in his shoulders always ready, the way his golden eyes seemed to study her, as if trying to learn her secrets. He did not speak much, and when he did, it was carefully measured. He asked few questions about her life, her home, or herself. Yet in the quiet moments, when the storm silenced the world outside, they shared the same space in a strange, unspoken companionship. On the third night, something changed. The full moon rose high, pale and luminous, casting its silver light through the frost-lined windows. Rowan stirred in his bed, his body tense. He muttered something unintelligible, and Alara froze. Suddenly, the wind howled as if answering him, and the room seemed to grow colder. His body arched, bones moving in ways that should have been impossible. His golden eyes glowed brighter. Elara backed away instinctively, but she did not run. Something inside her told her he was not attacking. She watched, heart pounding, as the man on her bed grew taller, broader, and something began to shift beneath his skin. His bones seemed to stretch and reshape, his muscles thickened, and fur, dark as midnight, spread over him like a cloak. His head lowered, ears twitching, and the face she had known transformed into that of a massive wolf. Its eyes golden and alive with fire, its gaze fixed on her, intelligent and wary. It did not growl, did not bare teeth. It simply watched, breathing steam into the frozen air. Elara's hands shook, but she forced herself to remain calm. She remembered the stories of the wild clans, of shapeshifters who lived hidden in the forests beyond the reach of kings. She had never believed them, but now she could not deny what she saw. The wolf lowered its head slightly, almost in respect. Its golden eyes met hers, and in that moment, Elara felt a strange connection. She could feel the weight of his pain, his fear, his hunger for something he could not name. And yet, there was trust, fragile but undeniable, forming between them. "I won't hurt you," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "I only want to help." The wolf shifted back. His body shrank, bones returning to their human shape. Sweat and fur clung to him, and he groaned, exhausted. When his form settled into Rowan's familiar frame, he opened his eyes, now human again, and looked at her.
"You shouldn't have seen that,"
he said, voice rough.
"No one should see me like that." Elara shook her head. "I had to know."
You're hurt. You needed help.
That's all. He studied her, wariness mixed with something else, something softer, almost like gratitude.
"You are different," he said.
"I am alone," she replied. "And you are alone too. Perhaps that is why I helped you." The fire crackled, shadows dancing across the room. Outside, the storm raged on, a world cut off by snow and ice. Inside, a fragile bond had been formed between healer and stranger, between woman and wolf. Night fell, and sleep came slowly, wrapped in the warmth of the fire. Yet Elara could not shake the feeling that this was only the beginning, that the man she had sheltered in her cottage was not just a wounded outlaw. There was something deeper, darker, and more powerful about him, something that could change her life forever. The next morning the wind had softened. The snow lay heavy and untouched. Rowan was awake, sitting by the fire, staring into the flames. "I have enemies," he said quietly, almost to himself. "People who would kill me if they knew I was here."
Elara nodded. "Then you will stay until you are strong enough to leave."
"I will not send you out into the storm to die." He looked at her, golden eyes catching the light. For a brief moment, the mask of the outlaw fell away, and she saw the man beneath. The pain, the anger, the loneliness.
Why do you care? He asked, voice barely more than a whisper. Because I do, she replied simply.
And because it is the right thing to do. The day passed in quiet routines. Elara worked at her herbs, checking the fire, bringing warm food to him. He sat quietly, resting, speaking only when necessary. And as the sun set behind the white mountains, she found herself watching him in a way she had never watched anyone before. Something in his presence stirred a longing she had buried down long ago, a curiosity, a hope. But even as the warmth of the fire filled the cottage, a cold unease lingered at the edges. Outside, the forest was not empty. Wolves moved in the snow, and the wind carried whispers of pursuit. Someone, or something, was looking for him. That night, Elara awoke to a noise outside. The wind had shifted, and with it came a faint sound of boots crunching in the snow. She froze, listening. Rowan stirred beside her, golden eyes snapping open. He smelled it before she could. "They are close," he said, voice tight. "If they find me here," Alara swallowed, heart racing.
"Then we prepare," she said. "Whatever comes, we face it together." He nodded, a brief, tense smile crossing his face. For the first time, he seemed less alone. And then the moon rose, pale and full, casting silver light across the snow-covered forest. Rowan's body shivered, and a low growl rumbled from his chest, a sound half human, half wolf. Alara stepped closer, placing her hand on his arm. "I will not run," she said softly. He looked at her, golden eyes gleaming in the firelight. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, almost inaudibly, he whispered, "You should be afraid."
I am, she admitted.
"But I will not let fear control me." Outside, the storm continued to rage, but within the small cottage, a fragile warmth held them both. And yet, as the night deepened, a sense of destiny hung in the air, thick as the snow. She had no idea that the man she sheltered was more than an outlaw, that he was a force of nature, a wolf cursed by fate, and an alpha whose secrets could unravel kingdoms. And when the next howl of the wind reached her ears, she realized that the forest had grown quiet, not empty, but watching. Something ancient and powerful had noticed the wolf in her care.
Alara did not know it yet, but her life and her heart would never be the same, because in the shadows beyond her door, the wild waited.
The morning after the storm, the forest was quiet. Snow lay deep and soft on every branch and rock. The world felt frozen in time, as if it waited for something to happen. Inside her small cottage, Alara moved quietly, tending to the fire and preparing a warm meal. Her thoughts, however, could not stay calm. Rowan, or as she would soon discover, Cale, had stayed awake all night. His golden eyes had watched her as she slept, alert, protective, and tense. When he shifted, even partially, it had not been in anger or aggression, yet the memory of the wolf in her home lingered in her mind like a warning. Now he sat wrapped in blankets by the fire, his gaze fixed on the dancing flames. His breathing was heavy but controlled. The wound she had tended was healing slowly, though the sharp edge of pain had not fully left him. Alara set a bowl of steaming broth on the table and watched him. "Eat," she said softly. "You need strength." He shook his head. "I should not," he said quietly.
"I am a danger."
She raised her eyes, meeting his gaze. "You are hurt?" she said simply.
"You are human. You need food and warmth." He hesitated, then took the bowl with careful hands.
For a moment, he seemed vulnerable, the human beneath the wolf showing through. But it was only a moment. Cale leaned back, staring into the flames, silent.
Alara sighed.
"You cannot keep hiding the truth," she said. "I know you are not like other men. You are different, and I need to know what it is." He froze, the golden glow in his eyes flickering. Then he looked away, jaw tight. "If I tell you, it changes everything."
"It will make you afraid. I am already afraid," she admitted.
"But I am not going to run." He stared at her then, truly seeing her for the first time. His expression softened, though only slightly.
"Very few have ever looked at me and not seen a monster," he said. "You are not like them." Alara's heart thudded, and she looked down, unsure what to say. She had not expected honesty so soon. Yet something in his voice demanded trust, something deep and raw. Finally, Cale spoke. "My name is not Rowan." She froze. "Then who are you?"
he whispered. Once I was the alpha of the Moonfang clan. The words hit her like ice. The Moonfang clan was a name whispered in fear across Valor. Shifters, leaders of the wild territories, feared and hunted by humans. The rebels of the north, they had been crushed by the crown decades ago.
You are an alpha? Elara's voice trembled. Then,
Why are you here? Why wounded? Why hiding?
Kyle closed his eyes, a muscle tightening in his jaw. The Queen, he said finally.
She cursed me. She wanted the Alpha destroyed, the clans broken. I escaped, but only barely. The curse. It binds the wolf in me, weakens me, burns me if I shift completely. I cannot go back. I cannot fight. Elara listened, her pulse quickening. She had heard stories of the Queen's cruelty, of her mages who used magic not to protect but to control, and now she realized this man, the wolf, was caught in her father's world, though he did not know it yet. You are alone, she said softly. Yes, he admitted, alone, hunted, cursed. And for a moment, the weight of it, the exile, the loss, the loneliness, pressed down on them both. They shared a silence thick as the snow outside. Elara's fingers brushed over the table. She wanted to ask more, to demand more, but she hesitated. Fear and curiosity battled inside her. Finally, she spoke. Then you will stay here until the snow melts, until you are strong enough to leave. You will not face them alone. Kael's eyes met hers, golden and wary. I should not, he began.
You should,
she interrupted, firm.
because here, in this cottage, you are human.
You are not hunted, and you are not alone. He stared at her, and for the first time something softened in him beyond caution. Gratitude, perhaps, or relief. Days passed, each one slower than the last. Elara worked at her herbs, prepared meals, and tended Kael's wound. He rested by the fire, always alert, watching her. Each glance, each small interaction, carried a weight neither spoke aloud. Tension grew between them, unspoken, like a rope tightening around the heart. Kael began speaking more, in small fragments, sharing pieces of his past. He had been born into leadership, trained to fight, to command, to protect. The Moonfangs had been proud, fierce, unyielding. But betrayal had come from within. A rival clan, a treacherous human advisor, a plot that ended in blood and exile. He had survived, but at the cost of everything he had known. Elara listened, fascinated, and afraid. His life was a legend, a story that could be told in awe and fear. And yet, here he was, wounded and human, depending on her care. One evening, as snow fell softly outside, Kael rose unsteadily. The moon was full, a silver disk in the sky, casting pale light across the cottage. His muscles tensed, and his eyes glowed faintly. Elara froze. Kael, what is it? I cannot control it, he whispered.
Not yet. His body began to change, subtly at first. Muscles rippled, posture shifted, ears twitched.
He fell to all fours, fur creeping over his arms and legs. His spine arched, his face elongating slightly. The golden eyes remained, bright and aware. Elara took a step forward, though fear tightened in her chest. I am not afraid, she said, holding her voice steady. You are not a monster. You are yourself. He paused mid-shift, staring at her. There was something almost human in the wolf's gaze. Recognition, trust, and something else. Longing, perhaps. Then he shifted back, collapsing onto the floor, breathing heavily. Sweat clung to his brow, fur returning to skin, bone reshaping to human. He lay there, exhausted, golden eyes meeting hers.
"You should leave," he said. "No one can see this and live."
I cannot let you face this alone, she replied.
I have never run from danger. I will not start now. You are not like anyone I have ever known, he said. Most would scream or flee. Most would call me a monster and lock their doors. You are different.
"I have lived alone for a reason," she said softly. "I know fear.
I know loneliness. And I know pain. You are not the first wounded soul I have found. You may be the first that I cannot let go." Her words hung in the air. The fire crackled. Outside, the snow had stopped, leaving the world silent and silver. Cale felt something he had not felt in years. Trust, connection, even hope. But their fragile peace was not to last. A distant sound shattered the quiet, a faint, rhythmic crunch in the snow, far too deliberate to be the wind. Cale's golden eyes snapped open. He smelled it before she could. Soldiers, trackers, hunters, human, armed and relentless.
They are close,
He said, voice low and tense.
"If they find me here, they will kill me. Or worse."
Elara's pulse raced. "Then we must prepare," she said, keeping her voice calm. "We cannot let them take you. Not here. Not now." Kyle rose unsteadily, muscles taut, golden eyes glowing faintly. His body hummed with power, a force he barely controlled. He was the alpha of his people, the wolf of legend, yet bound by a curse and weakened by his wounds. Elara moved to him, placing her hands gently on his chest. "Do not lose yourself to anger," she said. "You are stronger than this. You are not alone." "I am here." He stared at her, golden eyes intense, and for a long moment she could feel the pull between them. Not desire, but a connection deeper than words, a bond formed in shared trust, in vulnerability, in the unspoken understanding that they were both exiles in a cold world. The sound grew louder. Soldiers were moving closer through the forest. Their boots crunched on snow, steady, relentless. Cale's body tensed. The wolf inside him stirred, itching for release. His instincts urged him to claim, to protect, to dominate the danger. But he did not move against Elara. Instead, he trusted her.
I will not let them hurt you, she said softly, placing a hand on his arm.
Whatever comes, we face it together. He nodded once, a brief, tense motion. Together, he whispered. Outside, the snow seemed to pause. The wind died, and the forest waited, holding its breath. For the first time in years, Cale felt something he had almost forgotten, a sense of home. Not in a castle, not in a clan, not in power or wealth, but here, in a small cottage, with a woman who saw him as more than a legend, more than a curse. The soldiers drew closer. Cale's body hummed with energy, golden eyes glowing in the firelight, and yet he did not attack. He waited. For what? He did not know. Perhaps for trust, perhaps for hope, perhaps for the courage to face the storm that had come to his door. Elara sat beside him, hands trembling slightly. "You are not a monster," she said quietly.
You are stronger than you know.
Not anymore. Cale's gaze softened, but the tension did not leave him. He felt the wolf stir, felt the curse burn beneath his skin, and yet, in her presence, he could resist. He could choose to be human, and for the first time he realized that survival was not enough, that he wanted something more than hiding, more than fleeing. He wanted trust. He wanted connection. He wanted her. Outside, the storm of snow had ended, leaving a frozen world under a full moon. Inside, in the warmth of fire and fragile trust, two exiles faced each other, hearts and fates entwined. And yet the danger had not passed. The forest watched. The soldiers approached, and the curse that bound Cale's wolf would not wait forever. The forest was still, heavy with snow and silence. But the quiet outside Ilara's cottage could not last. News traveled faster than snowflakes. Soldiers of the Queen were moving through the northern woods, relentless in their pursuit. Cale had sensed them coming, but now the danger was more than just the cold or the storm. It was the crown itself, the power that had cursed him, hunting him like a shadow that could not be shaken. Elara felt it before Cale spoke. She was kneading herbs over a fire, the fragrant steam filling the room, when she heard the faint crunch of boots outside. Deliberate and heavy. Her heart sank.
"They are here,"
Cale said, his golden eyes scanning the frozen trees beyond the window. His voice was low, tense, not just hunters. Someone important, someone who knows who I am.
Ilara's fingers froze over the herbs. Important, like a noble? Kyle shook his head.
Worse, someone who can command the Queen's power. The door opened before she could ask who it was. Snow blew into the room as a tall figure stepped inside, cloaked, hood drawn. The faint glint of magic surrounded the figure, the air humming with authority and quiet menace.
"Ilara,"
the figure said, voice steady and cold, yet with a hint of sorrow.
"I have found you."
She recognized the tone, the authority. It was her father, Lord Maelor, the mage who had created the binding spells, who had once shaped her life with expectation and command. He had come for her, to pull her back to the court she had fled.
"Father," she said, voice tight, uncertain.
"You know why I am here," he said, lowering the hood.
His eyes softened slightly when he looked at her, but the power in his presence was undeniable.
The Queen demands obedience.
Cale, the Alpha, the Outlaw. He must be controlled.
Either you return with me and complete the binding spell, or he dies, and the northern forests will burn in retaliation.
Lara's breath caught. The weight of choice pressed down on her. Return to the court she had fled, obey the rules she had once escaped, and save Cale, or stay, defy her father, and risk not just his life, but countless others. Cale stood beside her, golden eyes glowing faintly, muscles tense. He had sensed her father's magic even before she did. He growled low in his throat, restrained but dangerous.
You, Cale said, voice quiet but sharp. You are involved in this? Ilara met his gaze. Yes, she said softly.
"He is my father, and I cannot hide it."
Cale's jaw tightened. "I trusted you," he said.
I thought this place was safe.
"You are safe here," she said firmly.
But I cannot let them die because of us, because of me. Lord Maelor stepped closer, eyes scanning Cale with careful calculation.
"If the binding spell is completed, the curse will end," he said. "But Cale will not remain free.
He will be a tool of the crown, his wolf-bound forever. You must choose, Ilara, power or life, obedience or freedom."
Ilara's mind raced. She knew the Queen's cruelty, the ambition of the court, and the magic her father wielded.
And yet she also knew Cale. She knew the wolf, the man, the exile who had trusted her. She could not simply hand him over.
"I will not do it,"
she said finally, her voice quiet but firm.
"I will not bind him.
Not like that. Not for anyone. Lord Maelor's eyes hardened. then you understand the consequences. The queen will act, and Kale will die. Kale stepped forward, shaking with power barely restrained.
I will not let her touch me,
he said, his voice trembling with anger.
I will fight. I will kill before I am bound.
No, she said. Do not let rage take you. Do not let the wolf rule completely. You are stronger than this. Trust me. Kale's golden eyes softened, but only slightly. The wolf inside him stirred, impatient and dangerous. His hands clenched, claws nearly forming beneath his skin. He felt the need to mark, to dominate, to protect. But he held himself back. For her. I cannot lose you, he whispered.
You will not, she said. We will find another way.
The tension in the room was almost unbearable. The air hummed with magic, power, and unspoken longing. Kale's heart raced, not just from fear of the approaching danger, but from something he had never admitted before. Trust, respect, even a quiet affection for the woman who had saved him. Outside, the wind carried the sound of approaching soldiers. Their boots crunched through the snow, and the faint glimmer of weapons reflected the moonlight. They were near. Too near.
Alara looked at Kale.
We have no time.
You must leave.
I cannot. Not yet.
If I leave, they will find me before I am ready, and if they hurt you, I will never forgive myself.
Alara's chest tightened. She had expected fear, but not the depth of connection she felt. He was not just a man in need of healing. He was a man she could not abandon, no matter the cost.
I will not let them take you, she said. Whatever comes, we face it together.
He felt the pull of the wolf inside him, the curse that still burned, the power he had barely controlled. And yet, he did not shift. He did not attack. He waited for her. The soldiers arrived at last, their shadows long in the moonlight. They moved with precision, surrounding the cottage, cutting off any escape. Their leader, a man cloaked in black with the queen's insignia on his chest, stepped forward.
Kale Varro, he called. Come out.
You are surrounded. Surrender, and your life may be spared.
Kale's body tensed. The wolf surged inside him, urging him to leap, to fight, to claim. But he looked at Alara, standing firm, calm despite the danger. He did not want to hurt her or anyone inside this cottage.
I will not surrender, he said.
His voice was steady, but every muscle in his body trembled with the effort of restraint. The soldiers hesitated, unsure how to proceed. The wind carried a faint growl from Kale, low and dangerous. A warning. Alara stepped forward, hands raised. Stop, she shouted. He will not harm you. He only wants peace. The leader of the soldiers paused, then raised an eyebrow. Peace? The queen calls him a rebel, a beast.
He is guilty of crimes against the crown.
Crimes? Alara's voice rang clear and sharp.
He is cursed, hunted and wounded. He is not your enemy.
He is not a monster. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Kale's golden eyes held steady, and the wolf inside him settled slightly, restrained by her presence, by the trust they shared. But the tension did not fade. The soldiers were still here. The queen's magic was not far. The curse still burned within Kale, weakening him, threatening to release the wolf in full fury. Elara's father stepped forward.
You cannot win here, he said. The queen's power is stronger than any man, even an alpha.
Surrender now, and perhaps we may find mercy.
I do not surrender to tyranny, he said. I do not bow to chains. Then we must find another way, she said. I will not let them take you.
not without a fight. The soldiers hesitated, unsure of how to act against a man restrained by her presence, restrained by magic they could not see, but felt. The wind howled outside, carrying the sound of snow falling heavily on the trees. Then Cale made a choice that surprised them all. He stepped forward, unarmed but resolute.
"I will face them," he said, "but not in anger."
Not in fury, in control, because that is what an alpha does. Protect, not destroy. Choose, not obey.
Elara's eyes widened.
She had never seen him so calm, so determined. His presence filled the room, the cottage, the space between them. He was no longer just a wounded outlaw or a cursed wolf. He was a man reclaiming his power, his choice, his destiny. The soldiers stepped back, unsure how to respond. Outside, the moon shone silver on the snow, casting long shadows. The forest seemed to hold its breath. And in that moment, Cale felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. Not hope that the crown would spare him, not hope that the forest would protect him, but hope that he had found someone who believed in him, who trusted him, who saw him as more than legend, curse, or exile. Elara reached for him, fingers brushing his hand. "We face this together," she whispered. Cale's golden eyes met hers, fierce yet tender. "Together," he said. And for the first time in a long time, they believed it could be enough. The night air was thick with tension. Snow lay in deep, unbroken drifts across the forest, the branches heavy with ice. Inside the small stone cottage, Elara and Cale stood facing each other, their breaths mingling in the cold light of the fire. Outside, the faint crunch of approaching footsteps told them that the Queen's forces were near. More than soldiers this time, a sorcerer, summoned by the crown itself, and his power hung over the land like a storm cloud. Elara's heart pounded. She had never been so frightened, and yet she had never felt so certain. The path forward was clear. Cale's freedom, the survival of the wild clans, and the balance between magic and man depended on them. Cale's golden eyes met hers, fierce and steady. The wolf inside him stirred, restless and impatient, but he did not shift. He had learned restraint in the past days, taught not by power, but by trust. And now, trust would be their weapon. "Are you ready?" Elara asked, her voice quiet but firm. Cale nodded. "I am," he said. "But whatever happens, stay close. We face this together." The door burst open. A figure, cloaked in dark robes, stepped into the cottage, his presence humming with magic that made the fire flicker and the walls creak. The sorcerer's eyes were cold, calculating, and cruel, reflecting the Queen's command. "Kael Vero," the sorcerer said, his voice like ice. "You will surrender to the crown. Your wolf, your power, will be bound, and your clans will serve the Queen once more. You have no choice." Cale's hands clenched, golden eyes blazing.
"I choose," he said, voice steady. "I choose freedom."
"I choose life, and I choose to protect those who cannot protect themselves." The sorcerer laughed, a sharp, bitter sound.
"Then you will die. Magic cannot be defied."
"Power will crush the weak, and you are weak, wounded, and alone." Elara stepped forward, her palms glowing faintly with the light of her own magic, drawn from the herbs, the moonlight, and the forest itself. "No," she said.
"He is not weak. He is stronger than you know, and he is not alone."
The sorcerer's eyes flicked to her, surprise and irritation mixing with his malice. "You?"
"A healer? You dare to challenge the Queen's will? I am not just a healer," Elara said, lifting her chin.
"I am the daughter of the mage who created your spells, yes. But I am not your servant."
"And I will not bind him. Not now. Not ever." She had risked everything for him, defied her own father and the queen herself. He could feel the wolf stirring inside him, ready to leap. But he held back. For her, the sorcerer raised his hands, and the room filled with a blinding light, magic twisting and curling like a living thing. The walls trembled, the fire roared, and snow swirled around the windows as if the storm had returned. Cale stepped forward, eyes glowing, body trembling with power. But instead of attacking, he focused. He drew in a deep breath, centering himself. The wolf inside him roared in hunger, but he calmed it, guiding the energy with the control he had gained over the past days. Alara's magic flared in response. She touched his chest, and a wave of warmth and light spread through him, melting the binding curse little by little. The runes that burned beneath his skin glowed and then faded. Pain gave way to power. Fear gave way to strength. The sorcerer's eyes widened. "Impossible!" he shouted. "You cannot undo the queen's work." Kael's golden eyes met Ilara's, filled with gratitude, trust, and something deeper, affection that he had never admitted to anyone, not even himself. "We are stronger together," he said, "and we will not be bound by fear or tyranny." The sorcerer struck with a blast of magic, aiming at Kael, but Alara raised her hands. A shield of silver light spread across the room, deflecting the spell. Kael shifted then, fully embracing the wolf within him, not as a monster, but as a protector. His body grew, muscles rippling, fur dark as midnight covering his arms and shoulders. His golden eyes blazed like stars in the night. He did not attack. He only stood, a guardian of the cottage, the forest, and Ilara. The sorcerer tried to strike again, but the forest itself seemed to respond. Snow swirled in the air, branches shifted, and the wind carried Kael's roar like thunder. The sorcerer faltered, overwhelmed by the power of a being he thought he could control. "Kael," Ilara whispered, her voice calm, steady, grounding him. "Use it wisely, not for destruction, but for freedom." Kael lowered his head slightly, golden eyes softening. With a single leap he bounded through the air, breaking the sorcerer's spell with precision, not violence. The magic shattered like glass, scattering in silver shards across the floor. The sorcerer fell to his knees, defeated, powerless before the unity of human and wolf, of trust and love. He had underestimated them both, and now he was nothing but a witness to what could not be undone. Kael shifted back to human form, breathing heavily, sweat and fur clinging to him. Aelara stepped forward, taking his hands in hers. "It is over," she said softly. "No," Kael replied, his voice trembling. "It is only beginning, but we survived." Together, outside, the snow had stopped, leaving a world glistening and pure. The forest was still, as if holding its breath, waiting to see what would come next. Ilara looked at Kael, her heart full. He was no longer just a wounded outlaw, no longer a cursed alpha. He was free, and in that freedom, he had chosen her.
"I cannot return to the court," she said quietly.
"Not after this. I belong here, with the forest, with you." Kael's eyes softened. "And I belong with you," he said. "Not as an alpha, not as a legend, but as myself. Because you saw me, even when I was cursed, even when I was weak."
"You trusted me. You chose me."
They embraced, hands clasped, bodies close. The fire crackled, casting long shadows, and for a moment, time seemed to pause. The forest, the snow, the cottage, they were theirs, and no crown, no curse, no magic could take that away. But the world beyond the forest was not yet done. Rumors would spread of Kael's survival, of the fall of the queen's sorcerer, of a healer who defied power. Other kingdoms, other rulers would hear the tale, and challenges would come. Ilara did not care. She had found her place, her home, and her heart. And Kael, the alpha who had once been hunted and cursed, had found something he had never known: trust, companionship, and love without chains. The full moon hung high, silver light spilling across the forest. Kale walked with her outside, golden eyes scanning the horizon. Wolves stirred in the shadows, drawn to their alpha, but he did not call them. Not yet. They would wait. He had chosen this night, this life, this woman.
Elara looked up at him. "What now?" she asked.
Kyle smiled, faint and quiet, a man at peace for the first time in years. "Now," he said, "we live. We heal. We protect. And we prepare for whatever comes next." She nodded, leaning on him as they walked through the snow, their footprints leaving twin trails in the white expanse. The forest seemed alive with possibility, with magic, with freedom. They were not just survivors, they were a force, a bond, a new legend in the making. The night stretched on, quiet but full of promise. Snowflakes fell softly, landing on their shoulders and hair, glittering like silver dust. Kale's hand never left hers, and for the first time, the world felt whole. Not perfect, not without danger, but theirs, and whatever came, they would face it together. The wolf inside Kale no longer stirred in anger or fear. It rested, calm and steady, like a silent guardian beside the woman who had trusted him. And Elara's heart, which had known fear and solitude for so long, finally understood what it meant to be truly seen, truly loved, and truly free. Far in the distance, past the trees and snow, something ancient stirred. A force older than kingdoms, older than curses watched them. But Kale and Elara did not flinch. They were ready. Together they could face anything. The world was changing. The Queen's reach would falter. Magic, trust, and love had rewritten what power meant. And in the quiet silver light of dawn, Elara and Kale, healer and alpha, woman and wolf, exile and king, walked forward into a future they would shape together.